Good morning, Keith. Look who's talking first this time.
Thanks, man. Thanks for opening the show, man.
Yeah.
I got some feedback. I got some feedback that I'm hogging the opening. So I want to share that.
Well,
I want to share the opening.
you did you do us a great service because as you can see, I'm incompetent in opening. I had to throw it back to you right away. I didn't know what the hell to say. So, well, good morning to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Is that a Tennessee Volunteer hat you got on?
You know it, baby. Shelby County, represent Memphis. What's up?
Shelby County. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah. Good. Go Orange. Go Orange, right?
That's right, man.
Man. So we're going to talk about something really important today. But first, we have some products we'd like to sell. No, that's not right. That's another show.
Yeah. So our show today the title is The Fear of the Unknown. And so I was talking to a new friend at work, and one of the things that they asked me to discuss with you or riff about is how do we deal with the fear of the unknown? And because it is really causing them some discomfort and some suffering. And so I thought we may be able to share, what has worked for us. Perhaps we can start by talking about what was life like for us before we were able to deal with the fear of the unknown in a very healthy way. So you want to kick it off, Rick?
Okay. Well, I don't want to give anyone the impression that I've solved how to not have fear. I have fear every day. I go into work. I've been doing this for 45 years, but I still work, and I go into work every day. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little afraid that I'm going to miss a deadline, or I'm going to do something wrong, or that I missed a rule, or that I failed to account for a fact. Or, fear is a normal thing, and I think it's a great tool that you can use to help you. So for me, I still have fear, but I've coped with it, I think, better than I used to. And the way that I cope with it now has nothing to do with being immobilized. In the old days, I would be so afraid of something, I wouldn't touch it. The solution for me when I was afraid of something was to procrastinate, just put it off, not do it, leave it sit there, worry about it, that spend my time worrying about it, but I wouldn't do anything to solve it, right? So that's one area that I think has changed. And now I'm able to use that fear as a motivator to accomplish what I need to accomplish. And that, coupled with the Japanese concept of Kaizen, where you take just a little step every day, if you have enough time, to do the kind of thing that you need to do to make sure that you're working on the task that's giving you anxiety, that helps get rid of the fear. Now, there are some things that I think are in the category of irrational fear. And those irrational fears have a lot to do with how we presume other people are acting toward us, or how we feel we're a failure and we're always going to have that kind of failure repeated every time we do something new. Those are irrational fears, and they need to be dealt with in a totally different way. And the way for me is to think of two things. Number one, recognize that it's a fear. Number one, okay, I'm afraid. And then number two is what's the most self-loving thing I can do with that? Well, it isn't to give it any more space. It's to limit it. It's to say, okay, I'm scared. I don't know what to do here, but I'm going to push through it, and then try to take a baby step to push through it. If it's an irrational fear, you still have to go through the idea, it's not here right now. I'm not in any danger at the moment. So what I'm thinking about is something in the future. Somebody said that when you have fear, you're really worried about things that haven't occurred. And when you have anxiety, you're fretting over things that have occurred in the past. So being anxious is like worry about, something repeating that you didn't like. And then fear is something that's approaching that you just are setting all these negative goals about, all these negative goals that things are going to happen. And all of it's a figment of your imagination. So with irrational fear, I try to say, at this moment, is the fear troubling me? Okay, let me give me an example. Let's say I'm dreading a phone call with a loved one, and we had a spat, and I'm dreading a phone call or a contact with a loved one. And so I'm thinking, oh man, I just don't want to do this. What if she says this? What if he says that? Back and forth in my own mind about how afraid I am to do this call. Well, if you just stop and think that isn't happening at this moment. And so why make this reality? When you think about things, you give them a power of reality so that your mind really thinks it's true. It's really happening. We have this amazing visualization power that we can use for good or for bad, but most of us use it to create all of these horrible things that happen. So I just try to remind myself that I'm not under the fear that I'm really fretting right this moment, right this instant. It's not here. It's not here. That's number one. And then number two, I also think at those times when, whether it's irrational or a rational fear, like going to trial, if that's a rational fear, I think, okay, I understand you're part of my life. I'm a fretful guy. I worry quite a bit, and I understand that. But it's just like being in a car with somebody who's a nagging backseat driver. You don't let them drive. You still drive the car. So when I'm in the car with my fear, I say, yeah, okay, you can have a seat in the car. You can be in the back seat, and you can nag at me all you want, but I'm driving it. And here's where we're going. And I think it's focusing on that action and focusing on the idea that you're recognizing that there is fear and then pushing through it. Part of the problem with overcoming fear is that people think they shouldn't be afraid. I don't think you should start there. I think you start with, holy God, I should be afraid, if it's something that's rational. But I'm going to drive through it. I'm going to push through it. It's okay. I've been successful doing this kind of stuff before. And if it's not a rational fear, if it's irrational, then the way I start with it is it's a situation that is imaginary in my head. And I just recognize, I monitor, I'm aware of that this is something that's a false reality. And I need to think about that and whether it's actually a threat right now. And of course it's not, and that helps to dissipate it. But the idea that you can overcome fear, that you somehow go through enlightenment and fear disappears, I think that's totally wrong. I don't think it ever is.
Yeah, Rick, thank you, man, for sharing that. How it shows up for you at work when you're dealing with the case. And I can relate to that, man. I just how irrational my fear is. And again, this comes in, what helps me is the people around me. Like if I have a circle of friends who can help me snap out of some kind of fear base that I have, because most of it's conceptual anyway, like it's not, really going to happen. So I'll give you a couple examples. One time I was asked to give this talk at Mayo Clinic, and it was going to be a talk to where there were several hundred people that were going to tune into it. But I didn't know they were going to tune in. And the way that it was presented to me was, they said, hey, Keith, I've heard you give a talk to our department, and it was about 15 people in the department. I was wondering if you would give this talk. It was a mandatory talk that people in this particular discipline have to attend. So, and as soon as I heard had to attend, and there could be up to 200 people, I checked out. So, no one was home. So fear wasn't even in the car because I was talking to a friend. It opened the door. It opened the driver's side door. It let me out. It didn't even put me in the passenger side. It put me in the back seat. And it didn't even put the seatbelt on for me. It's just because I was going to put the back. It didn't do any of that. They got in the car and it put it in drive, and it went 0 to 60. I mean, it floored it. And so I didn't hear anything else that this person said to me. And so I was just like, all I remember is saying something came out of my mouth. Yeah, I'd love to. That's all I heard. When I came back, I just heard myself saying that. So the event, and part of me, because I was checked out, I thought I heard like you're gonna give like a 2-minute elevator speech about what you do here, at the hospital. I'm like, okay, cool. So the date was approaching. I haven't really appeared anything but my little 2-minute speech. Here's what I do at the hospital, whatever, gratitude, thank you. I'm off. I'm dropping the mic, I'm walking off. Okay, but the Friday before, so I get a call on a Monday, an email that says, hey, Keith, can you send us your title for your presentation? I'm like, oh boy, I never heard of a title for a presentation. A title? I never heard of a title for a 2-minute elevator speech, but okay, maybe they do things differently at Mayo. So I'll give them a title for an elevator speech. So I type them back and said, I don't really have a title, but let me know. It's like, oh, and they follow up and said, we also, a couple of days before you present what? I heard. So I'm on the phone now, and I feel this metaphoric tap on this figurative tap on my shoulder. It was fear saying, "Hand me the phone. I got this." so it's like I got the rest of this. Go sit down. So fear jumps on the phone, and fear was like, it was getting amped up and elevated, and I'm sitting there watching fear, and I'm getting amped up and I'm getting elevated, and it's just taking over. So I'm like, oh my God, I got to do a presentation. I got to have a slide deck. I got to do all this. I'm a mad person. I mean, fear the unknown. Oh my God, I'm talking to all these physicians. What am I going to do? It's going off. And so I got to call Tim. He does presentations like this all the time for 400 or 500 people. So let me call Tim. Tim is in our circle. It's always good to have somebody in your circle who's calm under pressure. Now, they're mostly calm with your problems. They're not calm with their own. They're calm with your problem. But you and Tim have been doing the practice for so long that you guys are calm with your problems too. So Tim gets on the phone and I'm giving Tim like, dude, so can you send me a template of the kind of decks you do? And like, how do you do animations and this and that? He's like, slow down. He's like, all they asked you for was the title. I was like, he's like, that's it. And he's like, also, stop worrying about giving 60 slides. He was like, how many presentations have you sat through your lifetime? 1,000? 1,000? He said, yeah. How many do you remember? I was like, none. He said, exactly. So get rid of that 60 deck presentation that you do and let that go. He said, when Abe Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address, he wasn't like, hey, 4 scoring in 7 years. You know what color font should we have that in? He didn't do any of that. He's like, so relax. And he just helped me move out of fear because I was projecting myself into the future and everything that could go wrong.
That's right.
Good enough.
That's right.
For me, it's really helpful to have a circle of people around that I can call and that could calm me down, because I'm more than likely, if fear has really taken over the driver's seat, I'm not there. I'm checked out. I need somebody to help me check in again. And so you and my friends do that for me. The other thing is, a lot of the ways that fear has shown up for me in the past has been a fear of how other people see me or think about me. And I think that's something that occurs for a lot of human beings. We care a lot about how we look to others. As Landmark, shared with us, we are always concerned with looking good or avoiding looking bad.
That's right.
When you approach life from that perspective, that the only success for you is perfection. And because perfection is rarely achieved, if ever, you're always on the losing end of that kind of deal. So what I've also learned to do is I'm just going to do my best. If I stutter through a presentation, if I make a mistake, if I trip and fall on my face, okay, as you say, Rick, then what? I get up, I dust myself off. Hey guys, apologizing for all the ums and ahs and the stuttering during this presentation. I'll learn something from it. I'll do better next time. That's it. And so and people could very well be thinking negative things about me. Okay, that's their path, and by me having this experience, I'm able to be compassionate and empathetic and give grace and space to people when they may be nervous or when they may be fearful about something, not going well. I've had a lot, of that happen. And, my friend Donna at Mayo, what helps her is like levity and laughter.
Yeah, that's great.
Not self-deprecating, but just kind of, just laughter. So I'll give you one example. This is the last example. So when I used to work in the education department at Mayo Clinic, there was a new chair of education coming in. And so making a good first impression would have been nice. It would have been ego-driven, but it would have been nice. So I was all set to give a presentation on this kind of changing of chairs of the department. So it was an honor to do the presentation. I was grateful. I wasn't coming from an ego standpoint. I arrived early at the presentation on our Scottsdale campus, and I'm early. Like, I'm sitting back. I'm doing my gratitude. I'm in a great space,
Oh,
you know, because
no.
I've done presentations to where I'm running late. You know, every traffic light is, I'm catching every light. I'm yelling at the world for the traffic lights holding longer than what they should be. Motorists in my way. Like, I'm carrying on when I've been late. So I've learned to get early. So I'm early, Rick, early to this presentation. So the person who is like, there, you know, people coming up to say hello, you know, they're looking forward to what I'm going to share, because, you know, I weave in a little bit of storytelling from my life experience. And so, you know, oftentimes that creates a really kind of easygoing, light mood for whatever the subject is. And so I'm wondering where the chair of education and all of the high level staff or employees are that are in education. You know, from Minnesota, they're going to be there. I'm like, where's everybody at? You know, and so I go out to the lobby out of the auditorium to make a phone call to the chair of education, like, hey, listen, you know, where you guys at? And I don't get cell reception on the concourse level. So I go back in, and then I hear the chair of education on the phone with someone else. And they're like, is Keith there? They're like, yeah, Keith is here. He's about to do the presentation. And I'm like, and she's like, well, we're on the Phoenix campus. Like, I'm set to go in 10 minutes. And the drive from where I am is 15 minutes away.
Oh,
So
boy.
of course, you know,
Oh,
it's
man.
fear is like, I got this. so fear is like showing up, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be a failure. This is going to go wrong. This is not a good first impression. It's going. So in that moment, I had to make a choice. Do I stay here, which people were urging me to do, or do I drive over to the Phoenix campus? So I was like, you know what? I'm going to drive over to the Phoenix campus, and I'm just going to do the best I can. Whatever traffic light I run into is the practice. Like, that's it. So
Oh, good for you.
yeah,
Wow.
I'm in a suit. And you've seen the fashion trend over the last few years, Rick. Everything is fitted. Like the pants don't come down to your shoes anymore. Everything is tight. And so running in this could be a problem. Could be a problem. Some torn trousers in the wrong places. Everything could happen. You know, so I drive over there, and when I arrive, I talk to someone, and I'm sitting in the back of the room. The chair of education, oh, she's a master. You know, she knows how to fill time, and, you know, not just like an empty filler, but an engaging filler of time, waiting for me to get there. They rearranged the agenda so that I would appear later to give me time to drive there. And so I hear that someone leans over to me as I'm sitting in the back of the room. They're like, you know, the chair of education heard that you were driving over here, and she's on the microphone, and she says, oh, he's driving a Prius. He'll never make it. And I'm like, what? Like, so I get up to the front when it's my turn, and the first thing I say is, I heard that I'm driving a Prius and I will never make it. Don't sleep on the Prius. And so, so Prius got me here. And so that was a way to break the ice.
That's right.
And to free me from the narrative of how, you know, things were going to go and what people were thinking. And so the fear of unknown just completely disappeared by everyone joining me in on a good laugh as an icebreaker. So I think that is also another way to do it. It wasn't self-deprecating, which can be harmful or mask something that is underlying some kind of pain or hurt in your life. It was more of just not taking this event and this mood, this event more seriously than what it is. I'm coming to give a wellness talk. You know, if the wellness talk comes into that space, you know, worked up like a Tasmanian devil and sweating and complaining, I'm not much of a wellness coach, right? If I come like that. So
not a good look.
That's not a good look, Rick. So I think the fear of the unknown for me has been, like you said, is Kaizen, which as you describe Kaizen, the Japanese word, as just a little bit better than the day before. just a little bit more, just a little progress than the day before. And so,
and not going back,
and not taking a step back, just a little step forward every time. And that's how I looked at the fear of the unknown, is that, yeah, you know, I'm afraid, but when I'm afraid, I understand immediately when I feel the sensation of fear that there's some narrative that has appeared that I am identifying with. And sometimes I'm not even conscious that I'm identifying with it.
Yeah.
So I can create a little space to be aware, okay, I feel fear. And the minute that I can be aware that I'm feeling fear, there's space. And I can understand that I can either be identified and become the fear, or that I can separate from it. Like there's a choice that I don't have to take it on. And once I choose not to take it on, I can do exercises, or I can engage in activity, like you said, that continues to keep me aligned with a different choice. And part of that is telling a friend, hey, I'm afraid to do this, but I'm going to do it. And, you know, I'm letting you know, so there's no backing out. You know, can you walk this part of the path with me? Yeah. And they walk the path with me. When I was learning how to swim, you and several of our friends walked that path with me, but I still had to take the steps. I still had to get into the water. And so you guys helped me with that. So I've taken, you know, the fear of the unknown as an opportunity to grow and to utilize the practice. And I've also taken it as an opportunity to become my best self, and to let go of the need for things to turn out a certain way. I've had to let go of expectations, and whatever will happen, it will happen. I'll deal with it then. I get worked up about, I'm flying somewhere. Oh my God, it will never go right. You know, the flight is going to be delayed. I'll forget my ID. They're not going to let me on the plane. All this other stuff. And I go back to you, say, and then what? The flight's delayed. What do? You wait for the next flight. You know,
it's not that hard.
It's not that hard. But you can be worked up while you wait for the next flight and upset, and just call it suffering. I'm committed, like the Buddhists, like people that practice Zen, of no suffering. And so the fear of the unknown causes me suffering. So I just choose not to take that on, and just being aware that there's a choice, and then surrounding myself with people that will keep me present, that I have a choice, and will help me live into that choice.
Oh, it's wonderful, Keith. That's a wonderful prescription for health, I think, for mental and emotional health. The thing that people are way too hard on themselves about is trying to be fearless. I think it's just an impossible goal. The idea is that the definition of courage is to see fear and to push through it. And you need a little practice at it. That's all. You just need a little practice at it. And the example of what happens if I go to the airport and my flight is canceled, you need a little practice of having flights canceled before you're comfortable with the fear of the unknown. I mean, the fear is such an abstraction. If we can just, as you say, monitor it, be aware of it, and then not beat yourself up for having it, but then still go ahead and act the way you want to act, right? It's the old Gandhi thing about always, how do I want to be in the world? What do I want? What do I love about other people, the characteristics that I'd like to adopt for myself? And when you have those opportunities, like a canceled flight, you have a chance to be Gandhi, or you have a chance to be a raging lunatic too, you know. And in my judgment, the lunatic is the one who's suffering, and the Gandhi is totally at peace with whatever circumstance arrives.
You're right, but you know, most of my lifetime was spent being the worrying person in bed at night, when I'm in this warm bed and I'm worried about something that's going to happen tomorrow or the next day. You know, I had a friend that we used to go on these runs, and they would be nervous about the runs. And so as soon as we would complete a run on a Tuesday, you know, within 5 minutes after the run is completed, they're worried about next Tuesday's run. There's 7 days of living that they're not going to live because they're worried about what happens then. And I tell myself that all the time, like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know what's happening in this moment. In this moment, I'm not worrying. And when I get to that moment, I'll deal with that moment. And I think that, you know, just being aware of that, and really, you know, what stops people, as we mentioned before, is this fear about what other people are going to think of them. Guess what? you got no control over that.
That's right.
So might as well not worry about it.
And I'd go one step further and say, you not only have no control over it, but it's not your business what other people think of you. It's like you got to try to get in their heads and tweak it. So, oh, wait, you have to understand my point of view. This is what I meant. No, you're wasting your time. You'll never get to that point. Just live your life in a way that makes sense for you, in a way that is designed to help other people and that doesn't judge others and doesn't judge yourself. And think of the things that you want to accomplish in your life as a good parent, as a good brother, father, mother, sister, as yourself, what goals, and let it go, right? I mean, it's the working unit of your life, this moment. And the more you give those up to fear, the less life you have to live.
You know, exactly, Rick. When I've stayed present to these three things that I live my life by, I found that, and I'm just thinking about that now, that I've had no fear. That when I'm doing these three things, and they are being kind, serving in a way that is healthy and loving, and I'm being my best. When I do those three things, I got no fear.
Yeah.
I got no fear. Whatever it is, I'm being my best. So I'm doing horrible at a presentation. Was it my best? Okay, I got no fear. Am I being kind? And the other person may not even receive it or what I'm offering when I try to serve, but I was kind. I got no fear and no expectation of how people are going to respond. I think is key. So Rick, thank you, man, for your enlightenment, for the words of wisdom. As always, I love you, man.
I love you too, Keith. That was really another great show. I think the more I shut up and listen, the better this goes.
No, man, that's not true. I need you to be dropping it, man. So thank you. I love you.
I love you. Adios.
Okay.